Hello, and welcome to our live stream about the joint Don't Forget the Bubbles, Queen Mary University PEM MSc. Um, I'm joined by Spiros and Danny this morning. I think it's this afternoon actually now, isn't it? But who's counting? We'll just introduce ourselves. My name's Becky Platt. I'm an advanced clinical practitioner in paediatric A&E at the Royal London, and I'm also a senior lecturer on the paediatric emergency medicine master's course at QMUL. Danny, would you like to introduce yourself as well?
Thank you. I'm Danny Hall. I'm a consultant in paediatric emergency medicine in Dublin, in Ireland. And like Becky, I'm also a senior clinical lecturer on this MSc. It's a very exciting course to be on.
Spiros, tell us who you are.
Hello everyone, I'm Spyros Karagiorgos. I'm a final year pediatric trainee at Athens, Greece, a major fan of Don't Forget the Bubbles, and also a second year MSc student at the QMUL+DFTB MSc PEM program.
Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to be quizzing you good and proper in a minute. And if anyone would like to ask any of us any questions, please do pop it in the chat on YouTube and we can answer any questions that you might have here. So this master's course is a 3-year master's course. There are options to step off at year 1 and year 2 as well if you want to. And the key point about this one is that it's a multidisciplinary course. So we've got a mixture of nurses, doctors and paramedics all doing the course together. And that's one of the things that really adds to the learning experience, I think. So we're getting that perspective right across emergency medicine, starting in the pre-hospital environment. And that, I think that is one of the things that makes this a really nice course. Danny, do you want to just talk us through the general structure of the course?
I would love to. So, as Becky says, it can be sat over 1, 2, or 3 years. So, let's start with year 1. Year 1 is your postgraduate certificate. It is a year where you start to learn the fundamentals of research and critical appraisal of publications. So, our very first module is shared with another MSc called Emergency Medicine and Resuscitation. And it really gets down to the nuggets of critiquing a paper. From there, we come back into some real nice pediatric focus with a little bit of neonates and adolescents. And we have got some amazing faculty. So we have got the likes of people who do lots of stuff and Don't Forget the Bubbles, called Anna Waddington. We've got Henry Goldstein. We've got some fabulous neonatologists, Sam and Jazz. From there, we go into respiratory and cardiology, and then we wrap up year 1 with neurology and hematology oncology. Now, each module lasts 8 weeks, and throughout those 8 weeks, we run live tutorials that are also recorded if you're not able to make them live. We have a fabulous discussion board on a platform called Circle, where we really get into the critical appraisal of the evidence behind a lot of the things that we do, and we take it even further to say, what do you do when the evidence just doesn't exist? And then we go into our assignments, which we'll talk about in a minute. After year 1, if you're loving it as much as many of our students do, you go into year 2, which is then the equivalent of a postgraduate diploma. And then we shift focus a little bit. So we're going towards some of the more surgical specialties, a bit of gastroenterology, and we have a fabulous dermatology and renal module. We have a really nice critical illness and human factors. And we have the one that Spiros is currently doing, which is the major trauma and the minor trauma. Again, amazing faculty members. I won't go through everyone because I'd hate to miss someone off, but lots and lots of familiar names from Don't Forget the Bubbles, and many, many expertise throughout this. Also really important to say, not all our faculty is doctors. We want to reflect our student mix and our faculty mix. So we have community-based clinicians as well. So we have Tara George, who's a fabulous GP, who many of you might know. We have some fantastic paramedics. We have nurses. It's a really nice mix of faculty. The format for the year, again, is very similar in terms of the 8 weeks with 6 weeks of tutorials, 3 in each half of the module and the Circle platform. And then finally, if you're really, really enjoying it, you go on to do our MSc, which is our third year, which is a scientific paper, which will result in hopefully some really great research outputs and conference presentations, which we can talk about a little bit more later. Becky, did you want to talk a little bit about the assignments and the kind of skills that we go through? Because of course we bring our Don't Forget the Bubbles flavour to this MSc, don't we?
Yeah, we had to, didn't we? So we've got a range of different assignment types. So as you would expect, this is a level 7 master's course. So there are some essay-based assignments. So you are, evaluating research, you're using your skills of critical analysis and synthesis to come up with some new ideas and really evaluate studies that are already out there. So that's very much an academic writing piece. But we also want to really give people the skills of knowledge translation. And so what we often do, as you all know from Don't Forget the Bubbles, is we use blog posts. So we're bringing really quite complex information to you in an easy to digest way, so that you can read it in 5 minutes if you quickly need to find out something about a topic, maybe while you're on a clinical shift or you're on your commute. And so we ask students for some of their assignments to write blog posts that are easily accessible for people to read. So we want people to be able to write in a way that really brings the clinical information to people who need it on the shop floor. The other thing we do is we ask students to design infographics to portray information in a really visually appealing way, and to really distill down the information into the absolutely must-know stuff. And we've got loads of examples of infographics that our MSc students have done on the DFTB website and Twitter feed, so do have a look there. The other thing that we ask people to do is to do some video assignments. So it will be kind of as if they were producing a YouTube video about a certain topic. So again, bringing that information across in a really accessible and user-friendly way. And that really appeals to people who've got those kind of skills, who maybe don't want to spend all their time doing academic writing, but are still able to digest that complex information and just to bring it across in a much more appealing way. Spiros, do you want to talk to us about how you found those different assignment types? And I should say, not only have we got a very international faculty, but our student cohort is from all around the world as well. And Spiros is coming to you today from Greece. So let's hear your thoughts.
So, hello everyone. So, the most important thing, I think, it's a multidisciplinary and multinational team. Like every year, the cohort has also like paramedics, nurses, doctors from different cultures, different health system, and it's amazing how every assignment and every tutorial is showing once again like the variation that comes even for the simplest things. Like for example, today we discussed sedation in the emergency department, and every student used different agents and everyone had a completely different experience with pediatric sedation. This provides like a multidisciplinary and also a whole approach to every clinical question that we face in the pediatric emergency department every day. Other than that, the knowledge translation is a huge step, like personally, but also after discussion with students. Like you do not do the written assignments only. You have infographics, which is like, especially in the beginning, you think that you saw something really nice and you get back feedback and you realize that you can do it in a much simpler way using different colors. And after the second, third infographic, you try and you find yourself like being a design geek and you're like, let's change that color. Oh, this angle is a bit different. And you start like to get into the tendency that you really need to work with everything else, not only the content, but also everything else that goes into an infographic. Blog spots are also amazing, and I need to stress out here that we do not only write the blog spots and the infographics for the MSc, but many of this work is being uploaded to Don't Forget the Bubble and is being shared. which gives you the opportunity to also get feedback from all over the world, either through Twitter or Don't Forget the Bubble site, towards like your work. I think the most important, except for the assignments, is the community that we have built. Like we have a WhatsApp group that we share not only like MSc things, but we typically discuss difficult cases and also our personal lives. So we share photos. We share photos like of our animals, of our kids, and it's really amazing how when you are in a really difficult, for example, clinical shift, you may get a message like from the PEM MSc community that will make you feel better right away or make you laugh, which is really nice.
That's lovely, and I think that really reflects what we've tried to do with Don't Forget the Bubbles, about building that international clinical community of practice, which not only provides clinical support but also, you know, moral support for people who do what we do across the world. And I think it's really key, isn't it? Because this is an online course. And I think one of the things that people might worry about is that they wouldn't have that kind of connection with the faculty and other students. So I think you're saying that actually you've managed to find a way around that. And so we've got our kind of our platform on Circle, which we use to answer various questions offline. So there's that as a discussion forum, but also you've got your own student WhatsApp group, and that means that you've got that level of community as well.
Yeah, totally agree. And Circle, like it has 10 cases for every module, 10 cases for each part, for example, 10 cases now for major trauma and 10 for minor trauma, where they're real life cases. And I cannot stress enough how many times during my pediatric like training I have come back to Circle discussions in order to find the best available evidence to provide the best care like for the child that I have in front of me. And it's really nice because it shows the variation in practice, but also it provides a main page where you can find what you want for the child that you have in front of you. Time is always an issue, but being an online module, for example, an MSc, gives you the ability to build the train and the program to fit it like as you may want during your shifts. For example, in Greece, training contains really busy shifts, like 36-hour shifts and a total like of 70 to 80-hour clinical hours per week. But you can find, like, for example, some time in order to answer a question, either from your clinical experience, patients that you've seen, and we've shared really nice cases on Circle, or cases by reading papers and critically appraisal the papers on Circle. At the end of the day, you get like how many students you are, multiply by 1 to 2 responses by the student, and you get a full discussion for a patient, and it feels like you had the discussion with the multidisciplinary team around the patient at the ED, which is really nice.
I think that's a really nice point, isn't it? Because we're not asking you guys to just answer 10 questions and that's the end of it. As you say, it's a really rich discussion. And what we love, we're learning so much from you guys as well. What we love is you all have a different take on something. So, you know, we might be talking, we had a really nice question around massive hemorrhage last year in our hematology module, and some people were coming at it from the human factor side. You know, actually, how do you organize all these different blood products, getting the communication right so that people understand what's been given, what's coming next? How do you communicate with the laboratory? How do you get blood products from A to B? Other people coming at it from a scientific perspective, you know, the evidence that says behind the use of tranexamic acid or not, and the evidence behind ratios of blood products, and you answer each other's questions. So I really love it when I see a student say, I've read this really nice blog post that tells me this, but actually that isn't what we do in my hospital. What do you guys do? And then this whole discussion unfolds. And I also, this isn't my confession into the world on YouTube, I also go back to your answers when I've got the real life cases in front of me, because I want to know, when I want to evidence base what we're doing, actually, what does the latest research tell me about X or Y? So It's really lovely. We also use it very asynchronously, so we will dip in and out and around our shifts and around our other commitments, and we also are part of that discussion. So I think it works really nicely. The live parts are, or the live parts where everyone comes together, are the tutorials, which is really nice because we have a really nice chat amongst everyone. We have a very nice, don't forget the bubbles style of tutorial where it's not a didactic lecture. We could pre-record a lecture for you and give that to you. Instead, it's very much a facilitated discussion. Which reminds me, recorded material, our students get access to the DFTB digital courses when they're relevant to each of the different modules. So we do give you those. You can definitely use those in some of your answers. We like everything to be evidence-based, but we know that the evidence is often available in blog posts or on Twitter posts or on, an infographic, and these things are all shared. And what I really love is seeing all your publications that are going out there, because some of you guys are just blog posting away continuously. You'll see many familiar names when you look through our Don't Forget the Bubbles recent publications, which is really nice.
Absolutely. And I think you talked about different perspectives on Circle. I think that's one of the things, isn't it? We often see, a few answers come in, and then somebody who's got maybe a nursing background will say, well, actually, what we find is, at initial assessment, actually, let's take a step back and look at what happens in that period of care, because actually that influences the rest. And then, maybe one of the paramedics will say, oh, yeah, but in the pre-hospital environment, this is different. This is my experience. This is the evidence for what happens there. And so we're constantly getting this really nice discussion across all the different specialties and multidisciplines that really inform what we do. And I think that's one of the great strengths of the course, is that we're hearing from people from different professional backgrounds.
Yeah, and tutorials are really, really interesting because I like that they are not like, for example, the typical PowerPoint presentation that you get at 1 hour of tutorial. You get approximately like the first 5 minutes, and then you hear someone talking. We usually have like a pre-reading, like a paper to critically appraisal or something to read, and we get ready for the tutorial. And during the tutorial, we split in small breakout session rooms that 2 or 3 students are trying to either solve a pediatric emergency case based on the paper or perform a critical appraisal to a paper. And it gives you again like the ability to start creating a mindset of critically appraising like whatever you read, even if it's published in high impact journals, and also create a plan like you see the patient immediately in front of you. And it's really nice, like the pre-hospital, like we say some things like that are pediatric emergency based, but I love when you get like the pre-hospital, the paramedic or the nurse, and they say like, oh, whoa, we have 3 hours travel till we get to the pediatric emergency. So hold on this treatment. Let's first discuss till the patient comes to the ED, what can be done. So it's really nice.
It is. Spiros, I think a lot of people might be wondering how on earth you've fitted this into your life. You clearly have quite a busy clinical role as well. I'm sure it hasn't always been easy. How have you done it?
It has not. I'm going to tell the truth here. Sometimes, especially for some assignments, depending on the clinical shifts that you have at this particular time, you may be less stressed or more stressed. But I think the key here is that, first of all, there's a huge support both from faculty and also like from the students. So we try to share some things like, for example, I'm really busy, I'm stressed about the assignment, and then everybody will step in and support you in a way that will make you feel much better. And this is the case, especially the last week before the assignment. Everybody's really supportive. Who is really stressed? Me. And everybody's like, we can do it, we can finish it, we can submit the assignment. But other than that, I think the key is that during the first months of the module, that helped me a lot. I had a bit less of a clinical hour shifts, so I spent much time on Circle and try to create a tendency on how I am going to approach both assignments and also the circle questions. And you see that time after time, and assignment after assignment, and circle question after circle question, you find your own way on approaching, and it takes much less time, and it becomes a tendency. Where am I going to find the papers that I need? How I am going to perform critical appraisal? And you see that the more time you spend during the MSc with all the faculty support and student support, and because you see how everyone is approaching the circle questions, some of these answers are already blog spots. Like they are ready to be uploaded on DFTB. Like some of them are cases, some of them are really small answers, or they are formatted resources that you can read. But everyone has their own way, and you need to find your own way to cope with the assignments. But the more you spend time, the less time you need for each assignment.
Yeah, and I think that's the key thing, isn't it? Like with all of this stuff, some of the deadlines with the assignments are immovable, but you do know when they're going to be, so you can plan a bit. And equally, the circle stuff, if you can do it at a time that suits you. So that asynchronous element is actually quite useful for people who are fitting this around busy clinical jobs, which pretty much everyone is.
Maybe this is a good opportunity to maybe explain a little bit more about what a circle question really is. So we will pose, exactly like Spiro says, 10 clinical questions. They tend to be a clinical vignette, although sometimes it's just a question. And we're asking each student to choose 4, so the 4 that they either are most interested in, most applicable to their clinical scope of practice, or something that they don't know anything about and want to go and find out about, and just prepare a 300 or 400 word answer on an element of that question. So they're not big, they're not marked, they're not huge volumes of work. And as Spiro says, sometimes it's just someone will give a nice little short summary or a recap, or particularly just do a PICO review of a paper that they've read. And some students will take it much further and write longer. That's not an expectation that we have. It's lovely when we see them, but it's not absolutely necessary. And then when we talk about the assignments, there's 2 per module, but the first one is always a short assignment, which is worth fewer marks and should take less time to do. It tends to be a more creative of the 2 assignments, generally an infographic or a blog post. And then the end of module assignment will be either the critical appraisal on a paper or a video assignment, which are really fun for us to watch. And Spiros, I wonder, we were talking a bit about publications and getting blog posts published on Don't Forget the Bubbles, but you've very recently just collaborated in 2, or we're just finishing off another collaboration, 2 MSc student-derived and led projects that are not part of a marked MSc project. Do you want to tell everyone who's watching what they are? It will just illustrate what a great community of practice you guys have.
Yeah, I've done many collaborations during the last 2 years through the Don't Forget the Bubbles community and the MSc community. The first one, sometimes if like your blog or if your infographic is really nice, and it can be like, for example, a good example of being on the Don't Forget the Bubbles site, they can either reach out, like the faculty can reach out and say, do you want to get it published, for example, for the Don't Forget the Bubbles site, and we can do some minor changes so that it's more readable, but you can get it like as a publication at Don't Forget the Bubbles. Recently, I had a really nice opportunity. Like we did 2 different blogs about a topic, me and one of my like best MSc co-students, and we approached the fauna. It's going to be like published in a few days. We did the fauna approach from 2 different perspectives, and the faculty came back and said, do you want to combine it and create a big blog for the fauna approach in difficult way? And we said, of course. So like we collaborated. Then after the assignment was done, we collaborated, and it will be published like on Don't Forget the Bubbles. The second one is that we are finishing and we are currently submitting a manuscript, like 6 students of the master with a faculty of the master. We organized, that is not master oriented, we had an opportunity, and we are preparing a manuscript for antibiotic use in pediatric emergency department. So there are many opportunities that can stem like from the MSc community, And what is really, really important is that it provides you a door to the pediatric emergency departments all over the world. You cannot imagine how much opportunities you may get. It's not that you need to do them for the MSc, but they are there.
Thank you.
We've had you Spiros on, and it's nothing to do with Don't Forget the Bubbles, but through a lot of the collaborations, we've had you on podcasts that are outside of DFTB. And for those of you who like to see our bubble wraps, you'll see that the most recent bubble wrap was an MSc student takeover, who across both years 1 and years 2. Together, so you're even networking beyond your immediate cohort of students. I just think it's lovely. It's such a fabulous thing to be able to be part of.
Danny, do you want, if so, I'm hoping that we will have whetted people's appetites for joining the PEM MSc now. Danny, do you want to just talk us through what people would need to do in order to get on the course and what the entry requirements are?
Yeah, of course. So this is all on the Queen Mary University of London website. If you go to qmul.ac.uk and just search for the Paediatric Emergency MSc. But just to run through, so for doctors, we're asking for a medical degree. So you need to be a qualified doctor and to have at least 1 year of post-registration clinical training in something that's relevant. So it might be emergency medicine or paediatrics, could be anaesthetics, it could be something pre-hospital. For nurses, we're asking for an undergraduate degree at 2 or above, and then with 2 years of experience in paediatric emergency or critical care nursing. And for paramedics, we're asking for an undergraduate degree in paramedicine, with some clinical exposure as well, at least 1 year as a critical care paramedic or as a paramedic, 3 years. And then we're also open to physicians, assistants and associates. We're asking for an undergraduate degree and 2 years of clinical experience in a relevant topic. So, lots of different routes to come in depending on your discipline and your specialty. But all the information about fees and getting onto the MSc is all there on the website.
Absolutely. And there's a link on there if you would like to find out more about the course and you'd like to chat to a member of the faculty before you do that, then please do contact us through the website. So I think we're just about to finish up. I'm wondering whether I might just pass back to Spiros for a final word about anything you like related to the PEM MSc.
I think that at the end of the day, when you join, the most important thing, I think, is the community that we have built. And this was something that I was really stressed about, like joining an MSc, that it's not face-to-face, and I was aware that maybe you do not feel as connected with the students and the faculty, and this is not the case. And I'm really glad it turned out to be like one of the best choices that I've ever made, and it has supported me in many different aspects, like both in training and also outside training. So even if you see the new selection online, I think that the community that we have built and the relationships that we have built out of this MSc will follow us after being done, like with MSc.
Thank you. So you heard it, folks. It's one of the best choices he's ever made. So maybe it could be one of the best choices that you've ever made. If you'd like to find out more, please do have a look at the website, and we hope to hear from you. Thank you both, Danny and Spiros. Really appreciate your time. We'll finish there.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.